Here we go. So, early this week, Blizzard put out a little look inside of one of Dragonflight's quests. And now this quest, you can probably see it by this picture right here. You know who it is. It's Variastraz. I hope I'm saying his name right. But this little dwarf dragon homie. And the quest is you sit down and you listen. And holy shit, this quest is probably one of the greatest quests they have ever made. This quest is so simple. It's fucking dialogue. It's dialogue without actual voiceover. Yet it's so good. It's so fucking good. Because you get lore from this, right? Because this is the guy you learn that the Dragon Isles were called the Broodlands. You learn how interconnected all the Dragonflights actually were. You learn how there was probably a lot of like mixture between like red dragons, black dragons, and bronze dragons, and green dragons, and all this other stuff. Like, they weren't like, okay, red dragons gotta fuck red dragons. Like, no, they were like, oh, they were like mixing around the pot. You know what I mean? And you learn a lot from this guy. And they did a look inside the quest to basically tell you like what they were gonna do, what their plans were. We're gonna read it. It says, Dragonflight introduced a variety of quests to draw players into the beauty and wonder of the Dragon Isles, but one has stood out among the many. Stay a while. Is that really what it's called? Stay a while? I actually don't know. We take a moment to look at the genesis of this quest with the quest design team and how it evolved into the quiet moment of remembrance so many players love. The seed of an idea. Meet Veritistras. I'm gonna call him Very, because I don't want to see here. Anyways, the NPC Very's story emerged from the desire to tell a story about the Ruby Life Shrine and keep the action contained entirely within the area while providing it was insight. Providing it with insights into the mind of a dragon returning home for the first time in 10,000 years. Okay, that's an error. You should fix that, Blizzard. The original pitch was for a player to explore the area with the old red dragon who grew up in the Ruby Life Shrine. The red dragon would tell the player about it from notes they had written to help them recall many things they had forgotten over time. In this version, the quest had a lot more levity to it, but would end in a similar way with the red dragon coming across the black dragon egg, tending location, having a breakdown. Oh god, as he remembered his old black dragon friend pre-corruption. The intent of the quest could be described as explain what the Ruby Life Shrine is and explain the various situations of the dragon's flights as told through the lens of an old dragon. The problem was that we already had a similar quest where players visited the various hatcheries and talked to the egg tenders, so the team decided to work on other ideas for this quest. They focused on the core idea of an old red dragon feeling remorse and weariness after such a long time, and then confronting those feelings and memories. Iterating on a theme. Then began the team's iteration on this quest to the version players play today. Some of the changes that were made include, when talking to Alexstrasza, there was a lot of focus on loss with how every known brood and brood relative to Alexstrasza is dead, how that impacts her, etc. So we were supposed to like talk to Alexstrasza then. Okay. And like actually like learn about shit. Having our quest giver reminisce about a black dragon friend when they were visibly distraught over having killed those many years ago. Another version broke into multiple quests, got rid of the Ruby Life Shrine tour, and introduced the concept of sitting and looking at the view. It also added the idea of a memory capsule. So this is probably the one that they actually went with. This is also kind of the idea. And I don't remember if you talked to Alexstrasza. Do you talk to Alexstrasza in this quest? I don't think so. I think that comes later, right? That's like a Drakthir thing, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, further iteration of the dialogue was made based on feedback and discussions with the team. The original dialogue was much less conversational and more about listening to the NPC tell a story to the player character. There are about 3 or 4 breaks in it, and you can see the original iteration if you talk to Variostros and ask to listen to his stories again. Okay. After discussion, the team decided there was too much dialogue and something was needed to break it up. The idea behind the quest was to avoid combat and keep it within the Ruby Life Shrine, so they went with a more conversational approach where you talk to Variostros more frequently, which flowed better. That's true. It flowed a lot better, and to be honest with you, like, from this whole, like, thing where you sat there and you had to click on him again and again and again, it honestly reminded me of, like, Dark Souls. And the way From Software tells their stories. Because how they do NPCs and quests in that game is basically you go up to the fucking NPC, you hit A or E or whatever the hell your bind is, and you talk to the guy, and he says like a couple lines, and then he stops, and then you have to hit your interact button again, and he talks for a couple lines, then he stops and he does it again and again and again until eventually he starts repeating himself. That's exactly what this quest was, and it worked really fucking well. It worked really, really well in WoW. Where was I in here? Various straws, more frequently, which flowed better. An idea was tossed around to have the player go to some ruins and collect some items midway through, but they decided against this since players do something similar already in another quest. So what I'm getting at here is that this whole ass quest exists because, and it exists within the way that it does, because every other idea was already taken. That's funny. That's really funny. Anyways, the initial dialogue that was written could be described as sarcastic and bitter. Ooh. Through the team's iteration and how they wanted to represent the NPC, they developed into a sadder tone. As this was developed, the team agreed. Sorry, I'm yawning. As this was developed, the team agreed that it was more interesting to listen to an NPC with a sad personality who feels as if he's just done with everything. The line I thought was to represent a character that had just given up because of their experiences. Damn it, that... Remember how I was just saying how it's like fucking Dark Souls? That is some Dark Souls shit right there, bro. This is literally like, instead of like us sitting here and like, remember Solaire? This is basically Solaire's story, where at the beginning he's like really hopeful, and at the end he basically is like this just this depressed mess. That's what happened to Variostros, except instead of building with him, we just get the fucking ass end of it. Another goal of this questline was to avoid having the player fix Variostros, as that is not how emotional, mental, or mood disorders work. Why'd you do that to Sylvanas then? Anyways, instead, the team wanted to just tip the scales a bit, so instead of having Variostros slide further downwards, maybe this conversation with the player character could be a catalyst to help him to climb upwards. Fitting the character into the story, many people can relate to the story about coming home to a place that is no longer exactly what they remember, as well as feeling that longing to return home in the days filled with good memories. Variostros was created with a specific intention, and there's no backstory yet on the character or their actions over the past 10k years. His very existence is all due to that initial seed of an idea that grew into a beautiful moment high above the waking shores on the edge of the Ruby Life Shrine. I'll say it once again. This quest, bare minimum, just sat there and literally, you read text, and it was so fucking good. To do another Dark Souls comparison, when you go, after you talk to this guy, by the way, and you do his quest where you go and you get his little time capsule and you bring it back to him, the black dragon that he talks about, you can actually find out her name. Spoilers, by the way, and how you find out her name is they don't tell you where to look. They don't tell you anything. But if you go into the archives of the Black Dragonflight Shrine, the Obsidian Citadel, you go down into the depths, you can just find a random fucking book in there that tells you her name, and you can bring it back to him. That is some Dark Souls shit right there, bro. That is some like a Dark Souls quest design, and it's so fucking good. Because it doesn't tell you the direction of where you go. You can piece it together if you think about it for a minute, right? You could think like, oh, like this dude, well, he can't fucking remember his fucking girlfriend. Well, his girlfriend was a black dragon, right? And so maybe if I go to the Black Dragons, I can figure out her name. And you do that, and you figure it out. And he's like thankful, and he's hopeful. And it's like, that shit was fucking incredible. I love this quest so much. They need to do more like it. We need to have more quests where you just sit the fuck down and a homie just tells you some shit. I don't think anybody would disagree with having more of that. And if you do, you're fucking crazy. And if you don't like it, guess fucking what? You can sit down. You can click your dialogue. You can go AFK. Then you can come back. Click the next bit of dialogue. Then go AFK again. If you don't care. But if you care, this is some really good shit. This is probably, despite how bare minimum it is, I'm fucking up my words today. Despite how bare minimum this quest is, it is probably one of the best designed quests in the entire game.